Thank you for accepting our invitation to speak at our conference. I invited you a couple of times before, and finally you accepted, and I'm happy that you can talk to our community.
Okay, so look, I'll share my screen now. I'll share my screen now. Okay, maybe the technical team, Artur, can you see my screen?
Yes, it's all good. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so look, and I picked really maybe an inspiring illustration for my topic. This is a picture taken at Purcari. It's a winery in Moldova, which I'm going to focus on today. And that picture is a picture of a Merlot bud, vine bud, which is pushing ahead. Despite the pandemic, despite all the mess in the world, and to me, this is just a beautiful picture that makes us all really hopeful that in the end things will come out well. Okay, so look, three crises I'm going to talk today about. All three of them are going to be about Purcari. I'll get to that in a second. Why Purcari? But it's a 2013 crisis when we lost our largest market in a single day. 2017 crisis, which was a crisis. In our relationship with the founder of the company. So again, I'll go into that detail. And 2020, it's the recent crisis we face with this COVID-19 challenge. First of all, I speak here as a partner at Horizon Capital. Horizon Capital is one of the larger investors in the region, probably the largest investor in the region. Private equity investor. We've been around for more than 20 years, backed more than 50 companies, about $800 million under management, invest in typically for significant minority stakes in late stage, typically larger companies. You may not know Horizon. I'm sure you know many of the portfolio companies we backed. In Moldova, that's companies like Maiv, the largest bank, or Purcari, the largest winery. In Ukraine, it's companies like Rosetka, which is the Amazon of Ukraine. In Russia, it's Tinkoff Bank. They claim they are the largest online bank in the world, in fact. So overall, good companies. So and overall, despite the macroeconomic situation, our region not being always very favorable, we managed to do quite well. But today I'm not going to talk about finance. I'm going to talk about one of our portfolio companies, Purcari from Moldova, a winery. I think it's a much more fun and interesting topic than say traditional financial stuff. So for those of you who don't know, but I hope many of you do know Purcari, it's the oldest winery in Moldova, dating back to 1827. It's a scenic, beautiful location, very close to the Black Sea. If you haven't visited, I strongly recommend you do visit it. And really, when we invested in this company in 2010, we felt that we're becoming part of, we're touching something extremely important, and something that has to be dealt with extreme care, because it's such an important part of our national heritage and history. And again, just to give you a sense of why this heritage and history, it started as a supplier of the royal courts around Europe, and then it really became a bit of a cultural phenomenon also beyond Moldova. You can see it's been featured in these Japanese mangas, and by the way, it's not a product placement by any means, like they picked it up themselves. Here you can see the State Secretary of State of US, John Kerry, with a bottle, lots of archive photos and so on. So we felt it's a big deal investing in this company. And now I do have to take 10 seconds just to promote a little bit our product. So we're the most awarded winery at Decanter London, the most awarded winery to the east of Rhine, as we say, in Central Eastern Europe. And if you're looking to buy a good wine, I would go for this Chardonnay from 2018. which in UK, for example, retails at £12, but has the scores of a wine that of the kind of wines that would retail at 10, 20 times the price. So here's an easy comparison. So please drink Rockit and enjoy it responsibly. But now let me go into the topic of this presentation. So we did face quite a few crises during our existence. So maybe I'll start with the first one: how to lose your largest market in a single day. And Moldova has this history of a little bit of strained relations with Russia. So once every 4 or 5 years, Russia bans our wines. Typically, they find some good reason to do so, good or bad reasons, mostly without reason. But the first time they did so in 2006, and maybe to bring it to life, because you understand an embargo. It's one thing when you read about an embargo in a newspaper; it's a different thing when it happens to you. So I just want to bring it to life what an embargo means. So I'm going to show a video clip, which I hope will play well. So here's the video clip. Do you see my do you still see my screen, Artur?
Yes, it's all good.
So you see the video clip now, right?
Nope, I see the presentation. So maybe you should.
Okay, sorry. So okay, then let me change just 1 second, because it's important you see this clip. So you see here basically a huge tractor destroying wine bottles from Moldova in 2006. People are making fun. It's for them it was funny. For us it was a threat for the entire country. But in March 2006, basically in a single day, Russia banned the import of Moldovan wines, and basically hundreds of millions of bottles that were already in Russia. It paid for by the winemakers, this destruction of bottles. Moldova lost 90% of its export in a day. That's the short. And let me go back to the presentation. So in a single day, and then that happened again in 2010, and then it happened again in 2013. So here I'm going to focus on the 2013 crisis. So here it is. It's September 11, 2013. We receive a notification from this Russian authority in charge of this, saying that the import of our wines of all the wines from Moldova is suspended. Literally, we had a number of trucks on the way. So you can imagine what that means for a company. Russia at the time was the largest market. We had about half of our account receivables, so money owed to us by customers, were from Russian customers. So obviously, this means that in a day you lose about half of your account receivables. We were already stretched financially because we were still recovering from the previous 2 embargoes. So long way to say that it was extremely difficult moment. So here we are in the boardroom. We're trying to figure out a strategy. What do we do? Do we try to kind of wait maybe and try to lobby the government and somehow try to, via the Moldovan government, to get that embargo lifted? Do we try to maintain a commercial presence in Russia, hoping that it's going to be lifted soon? Do we try to somehow fight legally to recover like those receivables? So you can imagine there was a lot of anxiety on our side in terms of what to do. And sparing you the details, I think the strategy we adopted was called very simply. It was called Zero Russia Strategy. It was the 3rd embargo in 8 years. So we figured that, look, it's not a reliable market. Probably it's going to be very difficult to do business there. We've been burned twice. So we've been burned 3 times. You have to be really stupid to be burned a 4th time. So we adopted a strategy where we said we're never going to sell to Russia anymore. And by the way, we love Russia. It's a good country, but it's not a good country to do business for there as a Moldovan winemaker. So the new strategy we adopted is probably best illustrated by this wine, which is called the Freedom Blend. It's a metaphor to what we did. This Freedom Blend wine is a blend of three indigenous grapes from Moldova, Ukraine, and Georgia. 3 countries united by probably a history of strained relations with Russia. And really, Freedom Blend is the essence of the strategy adopted in that crisis. Our big bet was on the Romanian market. At that time, I think we're selling in Romania less than 100,000 bottles of Purcari. Maybe I will just remember that number. So less than 100,000 bottles of Purcari per year in Romania. And we said we're going to bet big in that on that market. You know, the first thing I think we did, you see, that's a picture from Unimedia, one of the main media platforms in Moldova at the time. We sent a letter to all the employees where we said that, look, it's a tough time, but we have to come together. You know, this is our strategy. This is what we're going to do. That letter somehow made it to the press. Was leaked by somebody to the press. That letter became kind of like the biggest news of that day. So you can see here was seen like almost 30,000 times. That gave us a lot of publicity because, you know, of course, the sympathy of the people were on our side. Look, these guys just lost their biggest market, so let's support them. You know, we launched like literally these guerrilla campaigns overnight. So didn't spend too much thinking about marketing. You know, many of them were launched overnight, and really we got a lot of support from users. Artur, I even found your tweet on Twitter. So even you supported us back time. So you see, I have historical backup.
I was one of the main supporters.
Yes, so thank you very much for that. But literally, like, kind of the Twitter went crazy, the Facebook went crazy. Here's the foreign minister of Ukraine. Again, at the time, Pavlo Klinkin. The war in Ukraine started then shortly after. So the embargo was in September 2013, you know, and then the Maidan thing, the Maidan event started in December. You know, then Crimea happened in March. So here's another example: the foreign minister of Ukraine, who took our Freedom Blend to his meeting with for these Normandy 4 talks, you know, with the Russian, German, and French representatives. And he literally tweeted that, look, I'm bringing with me the wine of freedom, and which is quite unique for a Ukrainian minister to do, because Ukraine have their own winemaking industry. So can you imagine, like, the Prime Minister of Moldova, for example, going somewhere with a Romanian wine or with a Ukrainian wine? Of course not, or a Georgian, you know. But the Freedom Blend was such a powerful message, you know, that even the Foreign Minister of Ukraine took it with him, you know. We took the opportunity to do the rebranding for Purcari. You know, we took this a little bit of old-fashioned label, put it into a fresher one. Again, it's not that it takes a lot of money to do so. Again, launched this guerrilla campaigns in Romania, which was extremely popular. And again, lots of examples here of the kind of things we did. And I have to say we had the enormous sympathy from people, especially in Romania, the market we bet on, and we did crazy things, you know, like supporting Russian dissidents, you know. So when Makarevich came to Chisinau, we kind of ran there and to have a photo of him with our wines. Here's the same thing with Saakashvili. Here's the same thing with that's a funny story, actually. So we are so desperate in a way for publicity that when the U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry visited Moldova, he went, of course, to see a winery. He didn't pick our winery because our winery is 100 kilometers away from Chisinau. He picked the state-owned winery, Cricova. So he went to Cricova, you know, and we said, like, look, this is really a shame because he's not coming to us. But we sent one person with a bottle of our wine to Cricova, and, you know, handed him the gift, then quickly made a photo, and this became kind of the photo of his visit to Cricova. And it was really a funny situation because he visited a competitor winery, but the main photo of him with a Moldovan wine was with our wine. So long story short, this crisis, I think, this Russian crisis made us much more entrepreneurial. We began taking risks. We began experimenting. We went for these guerrilla tactics. So things have worked out. This, of course, brought the team together a lot. So really, this has brought the team together a lot, and I think the results were very good in the end. So here I have the financials. We made about $1 million US in EBITDA in 2013. That was the year of the embargo. By the way, prior to that, the maximum level of EBITDA we had was at around $3-4 million. And 5 years down the road, we were at 14 million EBITDA, which is quite remarkable for a company that lost its largest market. So again, the starting point was extremely challenging. We lost half of our receivables. We couldn't make payroll. We couldn't pay salaries. We couldn't pay the bank debt. So it was a deep mess. And nevertheless, we somehow found the strength, bet big on European markets, on Romanian market first of all, and it paid back handsomely for us. So that's the first crisis. The second crisis maybe is a bit of a different crisis, and maybe it's not that big a crisis, but for us as an investor in this company, it was actually a crisis. So fast forward to 2017. We've been in this company as an investor, we as Horizon Capital, for 7 years. So, if you know how private equity works, you typically hold an asset for 4, 5, 6 years, and then you want to exit. And we've been already 7 years there. So, of course, we're thinking of an exit. We had a drag along right on the shareholder. That means that you can pull the shareholder into an exit legally. We owned 64% of the company at the time. So clearly, there comes the day when you come to the shareholder and say like, hey, we need to exit and you need to help us. So this, of course, led to some conflicts. I picked this photo, which I think is a funny photo, which summarizes the position. So on the left is the founder who says, look, guys, I appreciate you want to exit, and I appreciate you probably want to sell to a large strategic, and we've been in talks with the 2 strategics at the time, but I'm not going to stay stuck as a shareholder here with some new owner who's not a financial investor but a strategic who's going to do whatever he wants with me. So you're basically screwing me. That's what the founder was saying. Maybe he was right. And we were saying that, hey, I've been in this company for 7 years. I need to exit, and you're contractually obliged actually to help me exit. So that's a summary of the positions. And if you think about this, it's an extremely challenging situation, which really has the potential to lead to a huge crisis in relationship between the investor and the founder. We understood that the only way to sell this company, is to sell a controlling stake in it. And we understood that whoever is going to buy this company will probably want the founder to remain for a minority as a shareholder, because he'll still have to, run the company for some time, and nobody will come without a team in place. And of course, the founder didn't like this because he was concerned to end up with a new strategic owner in the company without any clear prospects for his own exit, or at the same time he was not really actually keen to exit at all because he saw a lot of potential in the company. So the founder, that's why the conflict. So it took us actually a lot of time to try to find a solution to it. And then as the crisis in the relationship was becoming more complicated, we again tried. It sounds easy now, but we managed to turn it into opportunity. And the opportunity was taking the company public. So you may know that there's 2 ways, basically. There's 3 ways you can exit a company as a financial investor. You can sell your stake to another financial investor, you can sell it to a strategic, or you can take the company public. So the first 2 options were not working really for us because of the reasons I explained. And taking the company public felt like the absolutely craziest idea possible. Why? Because first of all, we were too small to do an IPO. So literally, to do an IPO, you need size. You typically have to have hundreds of millions of dollars in market cap as a minimum. The second is we were a company from Moldova, so there was no IPO of a Moldovan company ever in the history of this country. So And the third is, again, maybe I'm going too much into the technicalities of IPOs, but typically when you do an IPO, you maybe sell, 10, 20, 30% of the company. It's not usual to do an IPO and sell, say, half the stake in the company. Yet we as a financial investor had 64%. So for us, selling, 10, 20% was not really a solution. So we had to sell actually a very large stake. So the odds against that IPO were very high. Again, I'll spare you the details, but we said that, look, it feels like the IPO is the only solution which has us as financial investor and the founder aligned. So we went for that route, and look, it was a very fun half a year as we prepared this IPO. I've never worked so much in my life. I never slept so little in my life. But I can say that we started the process in September, and on 15th of February we were ringing the bell in Bucharest, as the first Moldovan public company on a foreign exchange, and the valuation of the business was over $100 million at the time. Again, it was an historical IPO in many ways. First IPO from Moldova, first foreign IPO on a Romanian stock exchange, first IPO that sold such a large stake in the company. We sold 49%, almost half of the stake in the company. We were backed by some of the best investors in the world, like Deutsche Bank, Franklin Templeton, Erste, Raiffeisen, and so on. So it turned out to a huge success in the end. Again, another crisis, a crisis in relationship with the founder that we turned into opportunity that has worked beautifully for both of us. And the third crisis really is still unfolding. I cannot say we are out of the woods with that crisis, really. So it's the crisis about facing this COVID-19 challenge. And I think when you went through a lot of crises in the past, and we did have quite a few crises in the past, you kind of start developing some certain instincts about survival in the crisis. So that's why on March 16 or 17, we had this law adopted in Moldova that instituted the martial law, or what's the word, Situație excepțională. And you can imagine, for a company, this can be extremely disruptive. Already on March 24, so a week after the pandemic kind of started dominating the headlines, we came forward with a very aggressive anti-COVID plan. So some of the things we did felt maybe too radical at the time. I took, for example, 100% cut in my salary for 12 months. All the members of the board took 50% cuts in their salaries for 3 months. The CEO took a 50% cut in his salary for 6 months. All the top management took salary cuts of at least 25%. We made that thing even before we started feeling the financial pressure from this crisis. We did this for two reasons. One was to protect the employees in lower salary bands, because we understood that there will need to come cost cutting. We will potentially need to fire people, and it's not a good time to fire people in a crisis, because literally you send them to financial misery. So we said that, look, there will be difficult decisions coming, but so it's important we start with ourselves. So we start with cutting salaries and accepting sacrifices as top management and board, because this will make us, say, at least morally more justified to continue with cuts as the crisis unfolds. The second reason we had to do this is because we had to take also a position as a company that has a moral and societal obligation towards the community. So we understood that the safety nets are very, very, very weak in Moldova. The public health system, it's not the best funded, to put it mildly. So we knew that we had to contribute, we had to contribute to that. And again, on one side, you have the shareholders who want to focus on the business. On the other side, you have the moral obligation to contribute to the community in a time of crisis. So, starting with cutting, say, your own benefits is probably a way to also finance those contributions to community. So we announced quite a large contribution package at the time. It was 2 million lei, half financed by the company, half financed by the founder. I'll fast forward a month. We had the first COVID infections, the first identified 5 COVID infections at one of our facilities, not at Purcar, at another production facility. And I have to say that having taken that very public approach in terms of say early in the crisis, in terms of giving to the community, also led to I think a lot of sympathy from the community when we were affected by this virus ourselves, and the level of support we got was truly unprecedented. Again, I don't think we are out of the woods with that one crisis. That crisis is still continuing, but we certainly seized the opportunity to do the right thing. Luckily, doing the right thing at that time was also meant doing the smart thing. To be honest, this allowed us also to again bring the team together. I think it's very important in times like this to bring the team together, and I think you have to lead by example. And this is the only way you can bring the team together and create this high energy and high sense of purpose and mission that is extremely important in a crisis. Because if you want, it's already difficult to run a company in a crisis. So if you have a disengaged workforce, if you have a kind of a passive checked out workforce, then navigating this crisis is even more difficult. So I think those early decisions we made on March 24th have given us the fuel and the energy to navigate through this crisis in a much more productive and efficient way. Look, that's my presentation really. So I gave you the example of 3 crises. I'm sure we'll have many more crises ahead of us. In each case, we try to think about what the opportunity is, what is the right thing to do, and each crisis is different. At the same time, to a certain extent, each crisis is similar. And our learning was, and again, I promise that I'm not going to make universal rules or try to give advice, but our learning was that probably being like a deer in the headlights, as they say, is probably the best strategy. And the good strategy is to be proactive, to try to shape things and be proactive to things as opposed to reactive. That's what it is, Artur, really.
Thank you very much, Vasile. It was really interesting, even if I knew all this information, and I watched your press conference also via Zoom. I'm getting actually feedback right now from 3 countries that said that they would like to meet you. I have feedback from Ukraine, Georgia, Armenia. So I think everybody know about the Freedom Blend wine. And I take the opportunity, and every time when I travel in the United States, I bring 2 bottles with me.
Okay, Artur, no, thank you very much for this. Okay, then look, I'll also take the opportunity maybe to do some publicity for my fund. We are one of the few investors in this region, so I think we need, of course, more investors. We have 2 strategies. One is we invest in growth companies. There we invest, $5+ million per investment. So 5, 10, 15, 20. 20 is better than 10 for us. So we like to do big checks. And in case anybody in the audience manages a large high growth company, would love to talk. But also we have a smaller strategy where we do late seed. We invest up to $500,000 typically with a co-investor. And so if you have a high growth startup that is going to become the next unicorn, we'd like to talk to you too.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vasile. See you soon. Take care.
See you. Bye.